Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. For those of you who just joined, I'm Seren, an illustrator and graphic designer, and this is my first bullet journal flip-through video. August is the perfect month to start organizing a brand new bullet journal. September for me has always been synonymous with possibilities and new beginnings. It is as if during summer I stored up all the energy only to release it during the new year. December is different. It is a month of joys, parties with friends and family, gifts, hopes and wishes. September, on the other hand, is the month in which I would like to start or continue my new project, go out, have new experiences and meet new people. A month of possibilities, full of potential and energy. I know this is a rather debated concept, so I ask you too. When do you start a new bullet journal? When do you feel that the new year begins for you? Do you follow the calendar to the letter, or do you have other influences, such as the school one? Write your answers down below in the comments. I'm very curious. Before we get started, remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, activate the bell and write down below in the comments which is your favorite month among the ones I've made. I would love to hear what you think. I tell you now, I gesticulate a lot, partly because I'm Italian, partly because you can't see my face, so the hands have gone on autopilot. I apologize in advance. Make yourself comfortable and get something to drink and eat. And now let's get started. As you can see, this bullet journal is from Notebook Therapy, one of the best bullet journal manufacturers, in my opinion. The graphics and packagings are fantastic. The cover is soft and the paper holds all the materials I usually use without any problem. I was so pleased with it that I wanted to get another identical one, but unfortunately it was out of stock. I was so sad, but in the end I got two other ones which I will show you in the next video. I've almost decided which one I'm going to use, and once I do, I'll explain why. Let's start with the first page. Maybe if you have been following this channel for a while, you already know this. I love stars, constellations, magic, etc. Which is why I decided to paint this starry sky with a hole in the middle containing the phrase, "All we need is a fresh start." It seemed to me the best phrase. On the other hand, I created this overview of all the months to be marked each time one is completed, again with stars decorating the top and the bottom. Unfortunately, this is a section I use very little. I'm thinking of bringing it into the next bullet journal anyway, because I hope I'll need it more in the future, as I find it very useful, especially if you have a lot of commitments scattered throughout the year. In part, I admit I was a bit lazy myself. Let's move on. This is something I will definitely take into the next bullet journal. Having these photos helps me remember the good things I did during the year, especially if you are going through a difficult time. It helps you relive the positive memories and remember the people who were a part of it, who supported you in spite of everything. Even just putting pictures you took that you particularly like can be a good idea. I wanted to dedicate the month of September to The Lord of the Rings, a saga I like very much. This was also one of my first approaches with gouache, a technique that I really loved. It's something in between watercolor and acrylic, in my opinion. You can get both the opacity of acrylic and the glazing of watercolor, depending on how much water I use. After the gouache, I use colored pencils to make the small details and be more precise. Another thing I like about gouache is the vividness of the colors. Just look at the yellow brush strokes in the grass. Compared to a watercolor, gouaches are brighter. I had a lot of fun making this illustration, and I think you can see that. I like the pumpkins a lot, and the same goes for the door. Obviously, I adopted the typical Lord of the Rings font. I made these simple decorations, which I find very elegant and recall the structures of the Hobbit houses. In this double page, I've recalled the illustrations that are often associated with Tolkien. I particularly loved depicting the dragon, the clouds, and the mountains because of the simplicity and clearness of the line. This kind of approach helps to save a lot of time, especially if you don't have a lot. Here I had a lot of fun making this map. You might have guessed it by now, but I love details in illustrations. It makes you a little anxious because clearly you have to pay attention to all the spaces, the distances, where places are in relation to the others around, but at the same time it is really fun. The bad thing is that the charts of the habit tracker get a bit lost. You can't see them straight away. I could have spaced them out a bit from the rest, made them more prominent or in relief from the underlying map with some techniques. But it could also be a choice to not make immediately visible and pretend that they are integrated with the map. Here I made some simple graphic dividers with the word written on the doors of Turin. I thought they were very elegant to look at. The same goes for the autumn to-do list. This tree with the branches intertwining with the columns have always fascinated me, and I must say that graphically they are very pleasing. The blue I used is very ethereal, the illustration is quite light. I really like this page. I love this to-do list and will definitely take it with me into the next bullet journal, as well as the graphic layout of the whole month. I am comfortable with it and there is enough space to write my notes. Coming back to the to-do list, they are a very fun thing to do to really enjoy the seasons, to experience them to their fullest. This is another page that I really like, because I don't do illustrations like this very often. I'm very pleased with the way it came out. The colors are very bright, you can feel the gouache material to the touch. I also used colored pencils. I must say that it looks very good. I like the fact that the cities I depict are surrounded by nature. Although these brown trees on the left look a bit like pine cones, but wherever. They're probably my least favorite thing on this wall page. Well, the window is a lovely idea, but the end result is a bit so-so. I don't know if you can tell, but some points are inaccurate. The measurements were right. I had to make do with a scalpel, which unfortunately has a coarse tip with which I struggle to be precise. Apart from that, I still like the idea because it looks like a window through which you can see the autumn landscape on the left. On the right side, instead, I simply added a few decorations such as leaves, candles, chestnuts, pine cones, etc. to create more atmosphere. I love the little details on this page, especially the pumpkins, the leaves and the mushroom. I also like the paper elements with this font that recalls the typewriter. This phrase still rings true because I love autumn and this mood seems particularly appropriate. Oh, I wanted this to be a very cozy space. It's a space I would also like in my house, honestly. If I could, I would get a bookcase like this and decorate it with these leaves every autumn. Unfortunately, I haven't found many of them here in Italy, and they are often very plastic. Maybe I could make them by myself. Maybe. I admit that I should remember to mark the habit tracker more often when I complete a task. Sometimes I forget or mark everything in the daily spaces. I really like the textures of this pumpkin and this blanket coming out from the basket. And then up here I use different fonts, a playful choice in some way. In the daily pages I put the numbers inside the little pumpkins, and in the middle the dividers are represented by different scarves with very cozy textures. Small ghosts. Here and there you can see some small paper details. Here I really like this page because of this very delicate pattern in the background. It recreates a bit the mood of the month. It's a nice page to add, especially if you don't create the highlight reel section at the beginning of the bullet journal. I'm considering bringing it into the next Bujo, but it might turn out to be a repetition, maybe. I have a few ideas. November is a month that I really enjoyed, especially because besides gouache, I like to create this collage with various photos, paper elements that I print, cut out and pass to make mood boards. This one reminds me a bit of Oxford, Cambridge, my interrail in the UK in short. It's a dark academia theme mixed with magic. I have a soft spot for such things. Wrapping paper is a beautiful material to use in my opinion. It makes everything more textural, bookish even. I really like this page with this beautiful forest green. I certainly wasn't precise with the gold decorations, but otherwise I like the layout. The paper elements definitely give that extra touch. The Harry Potter references, as you will notice, are never enough. I absolutely adore this mood board, but I could have used it more. Unfortunately, I get lost from time to time, but I think that's normal. In the end, I made this sort of simple and elegant notice board, which recalls a student's notice board on which one hangs notes, photos, memories. So I put a bit of everything, but always in dim. The elements are well spaced out. It's something I care a lot about. I went minimal here. I put a strip of washi tape to divide the top from the bottom and some decorations here and there. Here again we found a collage. I really like the way it came out. This is an illustration I made and turned into a GIF. I'll show it to you. It's tiny, nothing too complicated. I could have tried harder here, honestly, or even just put a washi tape. It's true, I recall the trees in the landscape and the Christmas atmosphere with some decorations, but the bottom part is a bit empty. I could have continued the skating ring and added some little people, for example. Maybe I was short on time or energy. Here we are back to the details. I love all the Christmas doodles. Everything here was meant to represent Christmas in New York, seen from the outside. I live in Italy, I've never been to America, so I can only imagine it. I love Christmas, so I wanted the theme to be festive and bright. As soon as I saw it, I immediately thought it would be interesting to represent it in my habit tracker. I really like that the bow continues on the next page, where I put the gratitude list. It seemed the right month to make one. The small gifts drive me crazy. In the daily section, I inserted stickers here and there that I bought. I don't remember exactly where, but I love them. They are very Christmassy. I'd love to find more for other themes too, honestly. I really like this to-do list because of the composition. The two different types of cards have colors that are perfect together, and the tearing creates a gap that I found perfect. Every now and then you will find recycled materials in my bullet journal, especially gift or wrapping papers, as in this particular case. These biscuits look great on this type of paper, especially the white ones. I would have liked to use this space more. I was really excited about it, but I think I forgot, especially as many Christmas films were playing on TV when I didn't have my bullet journal with me. I tried. All in all, it's a section I like, but I'd like to introduce it in the new bullet journal to make the most of it. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Since January is my birthday month, for some time now I've been using a theme I particularly like, stars, and I can't talk about stars without mentioning one of my favorite books, along with Harry Potter, and Pride and Prejudice, Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. In fact, I put a lot of effort into depicting the Laris on this month's front page. I love how it turned out, I really do. I love how the mountains stand out against the star-studded night sky during starfall. On the right I left a few brush strokes, as Farah would have done if she had painted, perhaps to clean the brush or reduce water in it. There you can see I made a mistake. Remember that gouache, when it dries, tends to get darker. I really like blue, but I would love to find a white pen that is not almost transparent. Unfortunately, I had to use white gouache, which turned dark and became an off-white. I would have preferred a brighter white on the lettering, at least. This is the cabin of the inner circle. I probably have a weakness for snowy landscapes. Here I depicted the eyes and the Illyrian wings that Farah drew on the walls of the cabin. Here I drew some frames, and underneath the table with all the colors, I only had to look at my own table, drinks and soup, the famous soup. Those who have read the books knows. Here too I simply picked the Illyrian wings that Farah painted, as if we had entered the cabin in the pages before. Here I picked up again the initial washi tape. On this final page I inserted 4 of my own drawings. So the one of Farah and Rhys during starfall, the Polaroid of their hands, the dress Farah was wearing, and simply Rhys. In the background I placed textures that I made and scanned because I didn't want to ruin the originals. They could always come in handy. In the middle I also inserted a print of a page from Starfall's chapter, and there I put glitters to simulate the scene in the book. In February I wanted to detach myself from the dark blue of January. I'm one of those people who already wants spring on the first of the year. That's why I wanted to free myself a little with these bright, saturated, somewhat vintage colors and sinuous shapes. I wanted to have fun. I really like the effect, it's very patterned. Here I colored everything and I don't mind the effect. I still like the solids and voids in the corner, as well as the post-its, but I would have taken better care of the centers at the bottom. This error, but particularly the wall February lettering, bothers me so much. It's so imprecise. One mistake I often try not to make is to add the H at the end of habit. I don't know why, maybe I was distracted, but otherwise I like it, even though it's very full. I definitely wanted to try creating a page with a grid effect and lots of post-it notes attached with motivational phrases. Here from this month I started to divide the weeks with drawings in order to make the pages more colorful. I really liked the way these flowers turned out. The same goes for the pattern that divides the page in two. Same here with this sentence, surrounded by graphic signs and stars. I don't particularly like this last page. I needed to fill the space somehow, and maybe I was just out of ideas at the time. It's ironic to think that I'm going to France in a few days, and here in February I represented the Eiffel Tower. It's so strange because my friends and I haven't yet chosen our destination at the time. Here, this is a theme I love, absolutely love. I really like cottagecore because it's verdant nature, its atmosphere. It reminds me of the 3-week interrail in the UK. I think it's nice to represent this theme with the collage technique. I really like the word happiness in this wrapping paper with this white bunny on it. The flowers. These fruits reminded me of Finland and Norway. I remember the guide made us look for berries, but they were very hard to find. I was 11 years old and I actually found one. I love how this flowers biscuit almost gets lost in the green. Here I used one of my washi tapes with butterflies. I'm a sucker for mugs, so imagine how much I'd love to have one like this in my house. On this occasion I decided to make the grid line art with colored pencils because black would have been too dark, too heavy. I love flowers cut and pasted in space like this, but I don't like the way I cut this cat. I combined these graphics on the right by computer because it would have been difficult to cut the fabric bow or the duck at the bottom properly. I printed these numbers on the paper with stamps I found in a little shop here in Italy. I love this kind of effect that simulates a typewriter's one. Here's another Zara scent. I really like the fact that the bunny and the butterfly are on top of jam jars of different flavors. Very cute. I really like this one. While in this one I could have handled the pattern better because the shape wasn't bad. Very nice the dots as a border. The muffin looks so good. Of course there is my spring to the list. Maybe too chaotic because of the text, but I like the graphic elements. Nice the combination of the wallpaper with the green and white pattern that is very countryside. Here I cut out small circles of wrapping paper and printed the days numbers on them. Here we find the initial washi tape and the images between Sunday and Monday that I combined several different elements in a very small space, such as this green wallpaper, this yellow one with natural elements inside, the bunny, and behind it a stem blooming into a cherry blossom that I attached. If the image had been a little wider, it would have been perfect. Here we find a sentence of Pride and Prejudice above a light blue piece of furniture that dominates this pattern I use as wallpaper. It gives the idea of home. It was a necessary citation, of course. Here I really like the bunnies associated with the carrot cake. Super cute. I always love the effect of torn paper. It's textural and unpredictable. This one in the corner is also very cute. I'm absolutely delighted with this month. April was a particularly difficult month when I think about my relationship with the bullet journal and my YouTube channel. I was growing but very slowly and the views were very few. Perhaps this was the month when I did not include my voice in the video, only the background symphonies. I was probably inspired by a building I saw in Milan at the time, which was very beautiful and with an extremely decorated room. If you are curious to know which one it is, check out the video from April. I really like this collage because of its white and golden colors tending towards gold and the interiors that brings to mind castles, structures that I adore and would tend to visit, especially when I'm on holiday. Here on the side I first used some colors that were given to me as a birthday present. They are very light and have glitter in them. I don't dislike these glazes I made in the middle of the line art that makes up the architectural structure, but I think the April lettering is my favorite element on this page. I love display of curves in the lettering, even better without the cursor in some spots. On this double page you can see that I didn't have a very clear idea of what I wanted to do. Apart from a few elements such as the April lettering or the golden decorations at the bottom. A detail I picked up from the room in the building I mentioned earlier. The decorations on the right page do not convince me very much. The to-do list and events in the scrolls are nice, but I find the lettering a bit coarse and imprecise. Also the golden shadow with the glitter is a bit too much. Perhaps I should have used gouache, colors that are less full of bright elements. Here too I could have handled the page better. I like the lettering, these elements, but I see the decorations a bit randomly placed. An attempt to fill the space, but not in a wise way. I don't like this month's notes at all. I really like the pencil drawing, but I made a few mistakes with the blackline art and the colors. Again, the locket very nice, but the colors in general are too full of glitter and make the whole thing look tacky. I should have used the gouache more often and the glitter more sparingly, just in a few places to embellish the whole thing. Here I like this fabric, which I recovered from the many holidays discards, combined with these background images and this pendant at the top. I had to compose this bottom image on the computer, given the complexity of the frame. Here too, I had to be careful about the white of the images, the cuts and the distances. The washi tape is a bit excessive, but I had no others on the same theme, evidently. I like this double page a little more because of the perfume image next to this interior and the fabric. But my favorite thing is this door. I made the base with a brown washi tape as if it were a kind of floor on which this white door stands and almost seems to open to the next month. I like the final effect very much. And from here we move on to the next month, which is May. May is a month I really enjoyed making because I freed myself in a way precisely because the previous one was not particularly rosy. I decided to use the theme of mermaids, the mermaid in other words. I feel close to it because since I was a child I love swimming. I did it for years, so I have an affinity with water. I composed this first collage on the computer because some elements would have been a bit tricky to cut out with Schrister or a cutter. I really like the effect, honestly. They don't clash with each other apart from the scales of the mermaid at the bottom, but that doesn't particularly bother me. Here I used one of the washi tapes I bought in Chinatown in Milan. I love it. Here, as it was all very full, I opted to draw seaweed with gouache and little bubbles. I like this double page because it has a lot of detail here and there, but it's not overly full. The eye doesn't feel fatigued. Maybe I would have avoided the black for the outline of the May lettering. I like the way I used gouache in this month. They give me the idea of lightness. I really like the effect of movement I created with the bubbles. The maps are also a very nice idea in general for sea and adventure themes. I like this double page because it's very playful. It's full but in a clever way, not excessive. All the elements are just spaced out. The writing on the left and the habit tracker on the right don't get lost, on the contrary. I like the idea of the bubbles containing the numbers, very nice. Also nice is the empty lettering on the inside, very delicate. Here we find the first washi tape and another that recalls the waves of the sea, but in a petroleum shade. I made this composition as well as the others on the following pages on the computer. I had found this beautiful background and decided to combine it with this fake Polaroid. I don't mind the effect. Here this is the other washi tape, while these images are also composed on the computer from several different elements. I try to make everything as homogeneous as possible. Here too we find another composition, but a little different and less consistent. Perhaps is more similar to the first one of the Polaroid. It probably convinces me less than all the other May collages. And this is the month where I let myself go completely, the month where I used the style I usually reserve for drafts, more sketchy, but in some ways controlled. I wouldn't mind doing it again in some other work because I saw that it was particularly appreciated and I am very grateful for that. I particularly like this one. It looks very sketchy, as does the inspired word. This sentence at the bottom was much nicer in pencil at first. Then it got a bit ruined because I started going over the text when the brown underneath was still slightly down. I also really like the lettering of the June writing, very simple but very free. I like this double page, but it doesn't convince me 100%. Maybe I should have put less stuff. Maybe I could have left this element here without the writing. I don't know, it looks too full to me right now. What do you think? Here, on the other hand, I should have managed the space better. However, I do like the elements when taken individually. I should have centered the habit tracker inscription better, put them lower down or dislocated them well in the space, that's it. Here I stayed minimal, put on a simple brown washi tape and made this branch with sinuous sketchy leaves. On the next page I took up this natural element again, but placed it next to two women. I really like this line, its final effect. And this is the last page. I wanted to dedicate July to my trip to France that I'll take from the 1st to the 10th of August. I love the frame I did on both pages, very simple and refined. Of course I drew a basket of lavender. I hope we get to see the famous lavender fields, although from what I've heard it will be hard. I like the lettering, but I would have moved it a bit more to the right. It's a bit off-center. I like July's better, also because of the simple decorations on the side. On this page, I really like the to-do list and events boxes, the doily effect with the small details and the purple scent. This might be one of my favorite pages. I thought of the habit tracker as if it were a French pastry shop, then I put some sweets above each section. I like them a lot. Under this video you left me a lot of comments with your experiences, which I really appreciated. You have no idea how much I enjoyed them. Thank you so much. This image is also nice, I like it overall. Maybe I would have done the flowers better or given the brush a bit more color. I really like this vase with the lavender, it's very French cottage. The same goes for these two slightly more fashionable illustrations. I really like the effect I created with the gouache, light, delicate, almost like a watercolor with a barely sketched line art. On the left there's another illustration and on the right a PC-made composition with different images and details. I really love the balloon with the word bonjour. I just wanted to create a very simple French-themed mood board. And here we are at the last month. August is a month full of energy and I think these bright colors partly represent that. Lately I've been getting into Emily Henry's books and came across some reviews showing the titles Happy Place, Beach Reads and Book Lovers. I felt I had to depict the images of these covers on my bullet journal because they visually represented the idea of summer, energy and lightness. I love this first double page, I really do. It all seems well balanced to me. I tried to add some extra elements to compensate for void that clashed with the wall, always dosing the solid and voids. It is neither too full nor too empty. The colors stay in the background, they don't hover around the grids. At the bottom, a detail that is present in English covers, and at the side, a sentence that seemed perfect for the period. Every now and then we need to disconnect completely, to change our environment, to recharge our batteries, and experience moments of lightness, and then return to everyday life more rested and with a bit more lucidity. I wanted this sentence to accompany me during this month of rest and work in progress. The habit tracker page is very reminiscent of the title beach read. I made this very simple scene, the beach with all these towels, of which only the last two are empty and with some extra details. I loved the textures I created on each towel or on the divider on the right, inspired by the back of the title Book Lovers. It seems to me well done as a theme, perhaps one of the best I've done. And that's my wall bullet journal for the years 2022-2023. Thanks for watching, it's amazing how this year has flown by. I hope you have enjoyed it and that it has inspired you to create your own bullet journal, to experiment as much as possible without being worried about making mistakes, or to create next year's one with a greater awareness. Please have your say in the comments down below. I can't wait to hear what you think and I'll get back to you soon. Remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, activate the bell and write down below in the comments which is your favorite month amongst the ones you made. Have a great summer full of adventures and happiness. See you soon, bye!